Kaylee, from the moment I've met you, I've known that you're the one. Kaylee, will you marry me?
Give me a second. Magic 8 Ball, should I marry him? I know we keep talking about it, I keep thinking about it, and I just can't get it off my mind. I don't have any clarity on it. And what do you want to do? Do you want to have more kids?
I mean, I'd love to have more kids, but I don't know if I can really answer that. I don't know.
Well, you know what to do. Where is it?
Oh, Magic 8 Ball's right there. Just pass it to me.
Well, we did what they told us to do. We tried it 5 times. What do you think?
I'd love to go back, but
You know what we gotta do.
Yeah, you know what we gotta ask. I'm gonna do it.
No, you got it.
It is certain.
Here's what we're doing. So we started a series 2 weeks ago, Magic 8 Ball. It's all over the screens here. The number one question that most of us get in ministry from people is the question, what is God's will? Now, when we say that, it's almost always applied to a very specific thing. So let me go back in time and tell you how we're doing this, okay, and what we started doing. So what you're asking is, let's put a door here, because see, Nate, he needed 3 doors. I only need 2. I only need 2. That's just how it is, right? That's not true, because what's going to happen is I'm actually 4 doors, because I'm taking the middle door and I've turned it into 2 doors, but we'll get there in a second. All right, so, and I'm a little, whatever. So this door here, the 3rd door, there's a door there and there's a door over there. This door is the door we want to know. This one's what we call the personal will of God. Well, typically when we ask the question, we say, hey, God, who should I marry? Should I take this job? Should I punch this guy in the face? Should I, y'all know what I'm talking about, those kind of things. Should I or should I not have kids? And some of you, no. Seriously, that's not a good idea. So we ask these questions because we want to know, right? But we don't realize that there are 2 other doors that if we get these right, that one is an easy one to answer, always. Now, I know that it's like, Chris, now you've just been silly. Just follow me, we'll get there, all right? So the first door that Nate did was the sovereign will of God. And the reason I'm doing this is because the doors were turned a different way. So you'd walk through this door, you walk through this door to get to the personal will of God. That's what we're doing. So I'm gonna go back to the first door that's not here. These are imaginary doors. Just pretend with me, work with me. So you open the first door, it's a sovereign will of God. The sovereign will of God is God is in charge, he's over everything. I get that, I embrace that. And God, I understand that you're bigger than I am. And there are things that you're going to do, whether I want to do them or I don't want to do them. God, you're at work on this much bigger thing. You are sovereign over all things, and you're in control. And I embrace that. That's the first door. You with me? Second door is the moral will of God. Nate talked about that a little bit last week. I'm right here. I'm going to talk about this one. This is the moral will of God. And that's basically what I've then turned, and I moved that door right to here. So this is the moral will of God. I've added another door, which is this one. And we're going to talk about the difference, because when we're standing there at the moral will of God, there's actually 2 doors that we have to pick from. And we're going to talk about that. How's that first setup? We ready? Yeah. Let's do it. Let's talk about the moral will of God. Now, to do this, I want to play a game. Y'all want to play a game? We're going to play a game. I was going to be like, let's make a deal, but I'm not making deals. I'm just giving stuff away. Anthony, come on up. Let's do this. Give Anthony a big hand. He is the lucky contestant for the day. He has been picked today. All right, Anthony, this is how it works. It's not let's make a deal. It's just pick a door. Just pick a door. But here's the problem. 1 door, not good. 1 door, good. 1 door, really not good. 1 door, pretty daggum good. Does that make sense? It's pretty simple. Come stand right here. You can either pick door number 1, door number 2. I have some assistants back there. They're the ones that are bringing the gifts. So door number 1 or door number 2. Pick which one you want. Any door you want. I'll choose door number 1. It's interesting. Let's come on over here. Stand right here. Stand right there. I'm gonna. All right. Door number 1. Come on out, my lucky assistant here. How'd you like that? Very nice. That was the worst one yet. Come on out. This is our lovely assistant. She's trying to sneak up. The door's not wanting to move. Hey, I'll make it move. I'll break it. It's last service. We can break it. So I feel bad because he just wet his pants over here. a little wet spot right there. You might want to take care of that. It's awkward. Gotta block my eyes. Now, I feel bad that you got spooked. It's Halloween. We're gonna spook a little people. Some of y'all freaking out. Chill out. I got him a gift. It's a really good gift as a consolation. It's a picture of myself. You know, it's a picture of me so that you'll never ever forget this moment. Cherish it and put it on your on the wall. Yes, nightstand, even better. Don't put it on your wife's side. That would not be good. Come on over. Let's see what you could have gotten had you made the right choice. You know what's funny is every service, same thing. Everybody picked one, and she got to spook them. So here it is. You could have had an Amazon gift card for $25. Free money. No, I feel bad. Take it. Take it with you. Take it with you. Thank you, Anthony. Give it up for Anthony. And my two lovely assistants and Sam. So here's the thing. I was at a concert, and I remember the guy on the stage, he then yells out to everybody. He says, who wants to get wasted tonight? Who's getting drunk? Let me know. And then, of course, I mean, you're thinking, you know, how many people want that? You know, tons of people start going, woo, woo, I'm getting wasted. Y'all seen this before? Anybody been around this before? You know, I have weird thoughts. I'm thinking there's, you know, if you're going to ask that question, there should be other questions asked immediately after that one. Now, maybe there's a better question. Here's a better question is, hey, who wants to call in sick tomorrow? Who wants to put their marriage in jeopardy? All right. Anybody want to risk going to prison? All right. Anybody want to go home and be really angry to your kids? It's still funny, but it's not funny. I mean, it's one of those awkward moments. I mean, we don't ask the better question. It's sort of like, hey, who wants to get wasted? And at a NASCAR event, everybody says, yeah! A lot of NASCAR fans in here. Just relax. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's not a joke, actually. A lot of NASCAR people get wasted. Let's just be honest. Yes, not everyone. I mean, just because you're the 1%, you know, the 1% doesn't mean it's not a true story. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. I don't want you to be offended. Actually, I do. That's why I told the joke. But don't send me an email because I don't care. My point is this. Take the NASCAR out if it's going to distract you, because the point's still true that, you know, whenever you start yelling out, you know, hey, I want to get wasted, and you go get wasted, wouldn't you agree? I mean, listen, I've been wasted a lot, and I never woke up the next day and said, you're not going to believe it, the most amazing thing happened last night. You know, I got a new job, and I got a pay raise. I met the woman of my dreams. Now, you met a woman, but it was in your dream, right? It was in your stupor, because the reality is, that's actually pretty funny. Whatever, I'm just having these thoughts. You can tell I'm winging it a little bit. Y'all, the 12 o'clock crowd, you get the full gist of it. My point is, it's a bad road. You open one door, and then it opens another door, and then it opens another door, and it goes to bad places. And I use that analogy, and the analogy of giving stuff away, all to say that's what we're talking about. Some doors, there's some bad stuff behind it. And some doors, there's some really good stuff behind it, right? And how do we know which doors in our life we should open and not open? And here's the biggest question I want you to think about too. Why in the world would you ever open certain doors? Like, why in the world do we think, honestly, it's just a cultural weird thing. Hey, who wants to get wasted tonight, right? And it's like, why would you want to open that door? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There are some funny stories from some of my drunken stupors, but most of which were told to me because I don't remember them. And listen, for those of you that are worried, Chris, you get drunk? I got drunk many years ago prior to Jesus. So relax, I only get high now, okay? Not true, stop it. Because somebody's really gonna walk out here. He said he gets high. I do not get high, relax. Seriously, I do not get high. I did back when I was getting drunk, but not now. Not now, past tense. And I was gonna say, oh yeah, why would you open those doors? I mean, it's really stupid. You know, it's like, why would you do something that you know has terrible potential consequences, right? It doesn't make sense. Well, it's the same thing when we start thinking about it from God's perspective. So let me go ahead and throw up our problem, and then we're going to try to deal with it. Listen, there are some doors that we're thinking about opening up in our life that are just dangerous. You know, and I want us to have a good time and laugh a little bit, but I also don't want to take away from the seriousness of what we're talking about at the same time, because, you know, some of this stuff like getting drunk may be funny and it may be all right, whatever, but some of them have terrible consequences and are unbelievably dangerous. You with me? All right, let's keep this train rolling. That's what we're gonna focus on today. Now, why do we do it? I'm gonna see if I can try to answer this a little bit. I think for some of us, we think, so let's imagine that we're standing in front of two doors here, because you're sitting, but just imagine you're standing in front of these two doors. And then you have a choice, you know, and God's given you a choice. Why do we pick certain ones? So God's saying, no, don't pick that one. It's not good. And we're going, then we start thinking, well, why not? Why would you tell me that I can't pick that one? That one looks like a great door. I would like to go through that door. God must be keeping something from me. What are you hiding from me? And so we think that God is hindering us or putting us in bondage and not letting us do something. We think freedom is through this door. There's something that you're holding back from me. We think freedom's there, but it's just the opposite. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about how in the world do we find freedom. That's the title of today's message. We're gonna try to discover today, how in the world do we find freedom? And we're gonna use a very exciting passage. I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of this around here. When there's a really tough text, everybody goes, hey, let's get Chris to do it, you know? Because it seems like the last 4 or 5 times I've preached, it's been like some really unbelievable. And this is another one. This is another crazy story. It's Cain and Abel. The brothers, I know. Turn to Genesis 4. Let's get this over with. Let's dig into it because it's crazy. Genesis chapter 4, we're going to start in verse 3, and we'll go down to about verse 11. Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's do this. All right. Y'all get a little energy. You're getting there. You're slow, but you're getting there. You're done. Verse 3, in the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. Abel also brought of the first fruit of his flock and of their fat portions. Now, interesting, you have Abel, who's a farmer, and Cain, who is a hunter, okay? And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering. So God saw what Abel gave, the fat and the animals, the first fruit. That was great, but he looks at Cain and his farming stuff, and he says, nah, that's not so good. Bad regard, which seems weird, but that's what happened. Both of them give an offering. God says, I don't like yours so much. I like his, pretty good. Doesn't that feel a little awkward? Everybody feel awkward? Good. Feel awkward? Because it is. So Cain was very angry. Not just angry, he was very angry, and his face fell. Verse 6, the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry, and why has your face fallen? If you do well, saying this to Cain, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, this is a crazy phrase. I like this phrase. Hang on to it. Sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Verse 8, Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother and he killed him. The Lord said to Cain, where's Abel, your brother? He said, I'm not my brother's keeper. And what's funny is because, you know, you had Adam and Eve just a few chapters earlier who's saying to God, you know, she made me do it. He made me do it. The devil made me do it. And he's like, I don't know. What do I look like? Am I charged with him? And we'll keep going. We'll come back. Maybe not. I don't know. And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying for me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened up its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. We'll stop there. The whole text, there's more there. And I'll try to hit on some of that when we get there, but let's just keep moving this thing pretty quick. Let's deal with the first most weird, awkward thing in the text, and this is what makes the text so difficult. There's nothing in Scripture that says Cain is a bad person, Abel's a good person. Cain is a thief, and he's you know, we think that there's this presupposition to certain people just being bad people. There's no evidence of that. Both of them, listen, here's the crazy part. You ready for this? Both of them are hearing from God audibly. They're talking. So it's not like two people, like one of them doesn't really believe in God, one believes in God. They believe in God because they're talking to him. They're having a conversation. So it's not even, these then would be God people. Two God people. In today's text, we would say Christians, in our context, if they were here. Jesus hadn't come yet, so he couldn't be Christians yet. But there's like good church-going people. One brings something to God, and the other brings something to God. And it's in Scripture, there's this thing called first fruits, what we have come to know to be the tithe. So you take your first and your best of whatever it is that you have. And back in that day, if you were a farmer, you farmed and you took the first of your fruits, the first and the best, and you brought it to God and you handed it to him. If you had animals, you took the first and the best and you brought it and you handed it to him. Right? That was your offering. Here you go. That's what happens here. God then says, I like Abel's, but Cain, not so much. What happens? What's going on? Well, it is the central piece of this entire message. I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna walk down a dark road, and then at the very end, I'm gonna come back to a real happy place, and we're gonna end it. So you're getting ready to go on a ride. You just gotta ride it, because in a little bit you're going, I have no idea what this guy's saying. Just hang in there, and we'll try to resolve it at the end, okay? Ready? So here's the problem. So let's talk about the two and what's probably going on. We have information from Hebrews, so we know a little bit more about what's happening as they speak into it in the book of Hebrews. But basically, it's like this. Cain, and we know it from this little phrase, he says that Abel brought the first fruits and the fat portions. And then we know from Hebrews, the heart of the two people. So Cain, when he goes to God, he says, okay, God, you're asking us to bring first fruits, and I want to meet your expectations. So here you go. Here's the first of my stuff. Here you go. There you go. Thanks. Now what I want to know is am I good? Are we good? Okay, what are you going to give me in return? So there's an attitude oftentimes when we approach God, and the attitude is I want to be saved. I want you to bless me. And I come to God checking a box. Here you go, God, are we good? You're going to give me something? I gave you that. Now you're going to make my life amazing? I go to church. I read my Bible. I prayed. What else? You going to bless me? Am I going to heaven? Am I good? Am I good? Abel over here, on the other hand, is just the opposite. He goes to the Father and he says, God, you are amazing. You have blessed me beyond my imagination. Look, the way it works with animals is he's also giving, anticipating how many of these newborns and stuff are going to survive and all that, but they're there. And so he says, okay, I'm going to trust you that these are going to be here, so I'm still going to give you the full amount. I'm assuming there's going to be 12, and so I'm going to give you 2. And not only that, it uses this phrase fat portions. Now, I know this is going to be crazy for some of you, but the fat in an animal was the best, and it was the most important when they collected the fat. He then gives God the fat portions as well. And the difference in attitude is this: God, you're amazing. I love you. I see what you have done for me and how you bless me. This isn't for me to check any boxes. I'm coming to you as a complete person, and I want you to have this because I love you and I trust you. And so here you go, God. Here's the best. Attitude towards how I approach God determines everything. I'll say this to you here before we get too far into it. When I approach the doors of morality, and I have a choice on whether I am going to do something or not going to do something, hear this. This is going to blow your mind. You ready? When I approach the doors and have a choice, I've already predetermined the choice before I ever got to the door. And it goes back to this right here. It's a heart issue. I predetermined before I ever got to the door if my heart is with God or if it's about me. You bless me, am I going to heaven? Am I okay? God, you're awesome. I just want to be about what you're about. That attitude as I approach it then begins to open up the doors. All right, so here's what God does. So we have these doors and God says, I love you. I love you so much, I want you to know you got these two choices. Don't do this one. That's a bad door. If you walk through this door, it's slavery. I'll give you a few more words. Behind this door, if you choose it, this moral door is bondage. Behind this door is death. There's no purpose. I love you. Don't go through that door. See, our mindset is what are you hiding from me over there, God? Well, you're just trying to keep something from me. I mean, we view God oftentimes as some drunk hillbilly. Hey, God. God's up there. We're looking at God, and God's going, hey, I'm going to take this stuff from you. You don't deserve this right here. I got something secret behind this door. It's really amazing, and you can't have it. It's moonshine. Yeah, that's the hillbilly part, because they drink moonshine. I don't know if that's true, but it is. Because I am a hillbilly. I was born in the hills of North Carolina. So that's how we view that whole thing. But what God's saying is, as we approach that door, it's slavery. It's just the opposite. God loves you. He's not trying to keep something from you. What he's trying to say is, man, you don't want what's behind that door. Don't do it. So why in the world does God say some doors are off limits? Why? That's the big question. Well, why would he make certain doors off limits? And I want to answer it with this. He knows what's on the other side. Because he knows what's over there, he's saying, no, that's not good. Don't do it. Don't go there. It's a bad idea. All right, so let me do this. We're going to read another text here. Same text. It's Genesis chapter 4, verse 7. I want to highlight this part I told you earlier that I find fascinating. So if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. So once he was upset and he got angry, God asked him, why are you angry? He says, if you do well, you're going to be blessed. I mean, we're going to be good. It's all good. Everything will be well. If you don't do well, sin's crouching at the door. And that's where he's saying, you're picking something that I don't think you realize that you're picking. And sin has already creeped in because he was angry, right? Sin has already creeped in because he's choosing himself over what God wants, right? So he's saying, hey, you don't want that. Sin's crouching at the door. Now, when I think about that phrase, sin is crouching at the door. And that's why we're using the door analogy, because, right in here, this choice, right back there, hiding is sin. It's crouching, waiting. Crouching produces in my head, and maybe in yours, two words. Number one, first word is it's alive. It's crouching, waiting to try to pounce. When I think of that, I think of like an animal, right? And what animal crouches and waits to devour us? Like a lion or a tiger or some sort, right? So like you got these deep weed grass, it's sitting in the grass. Have you ever seen these animal channels? They're amazing because everybody wants to see the lion or the tiger win, right? I know some of y'all don't. They're like, no, get away, little rabbit. And no, he pounces and he eats them and they're delicious. So that analogy does not apply here. So just throw that one out of your head. This is the bad part. So it's crouching, it's alive. Now, why is alive important? Because here's the thing about it. Once you go through it, it's not something that's a one-time deal. It's alive. It still has more for you. Because it's alive, it has other things it wants to do. Just walking through the door and that one choice isn't enough for it. Now we're going to go deeper, and it takes you deeper. Now, literally, if you watch these things, what these tigers oftentimes will do is they'll pull them into their den or they'll pull them away from where they are, and it gets worse. And that's what it's doing. It's trying to pull you deeper and deeper into here because it's alive. It's not just a one-time bad thing. It usually ends up being a lot of bad things. And then the second thing that comes to my head is the fact that it's crouching, is that it's also hiding. Now, this is the crazy part that I'm thinking about, because what happens ultimately when you think about sin, there's all these lies that are being told to you. No, this is amazing. You got to come over here. It's going to be the best thing ever. You're missing out. All these lies and deception are pulling you into here, right? It's pulling you into it. And then you notice what happens once you enter through the door? You become the deceiver. Because now that you're in there and somebody's asking you about it, you're going, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I would never do that. And then we start making excuses. We become excuse makers. Well, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. It's not my fault. It's their fault. You see how that all happens? Isn't it interesting that the very thing that pulls you in, then you become the great deceiver? So now you see, that's why it says sin is crouching at the door. It's hiding and it's alive and it wants to destroy you. So here's how this plays out when you think about it being alive and active. I just want you to think about this concept. He goes from selfishness, it being all about him, hey God, okay, what do I got to do? Because he's thinking, what is in it for me? He's making it about him and God, what do you got? So now that happens. God says, I'm not happy with it. So what does he, first thing he does, he looks at his brother. Abel is completely innocent, right? He's just loving some God. God, everything's good. He's working hard. I mean, no big deal. Isn't it weird that all of a sudden Cain gets mad at him? He first of all gets jealous that he has this relationship with God. Now he's jealous of him. His jealousy, you see how this is starting to get deeper? He goes from being selfish to now being jealous, to now being angry, to now being the deceiver. Hey, meet me out in the fields, to murder. And all of a sudden, everybody's going, to that last part, I thought he was talking about me. I'm good. I'm not a murderer. You know, there's never been a person, well, I say never, most people would, if you ask them who were murderers, if they woke up or when they were younger, they thought they'd be a murderer. Nobody says, yeah, that was me. I was going to be a murderer my whole life. I knew I'd be a murderer. Nobody finds themselves here. Nobody wakes up and then they're the worst possible scenario. It's step, deeper, and that's what this is. Slavery. It fools you, it lures you in, and it takes you to places you can't go. And that's why the text here says in verse 8, it talks about, no, you have to master it. You have to master this door. Don't let it master you. You don't have to pick it. I have to learn control. No, I'm not gonna pick that door. I'm not gonna let it master me. So let me just summarize this whole concept right here, break it down to this point. Breaking God's moral will also breaks you and the people around you. When you break God's will, and I just threw a little twist in there for you because now it's not just you that you're messing up. It affects others like Abel who are completely innocent. Now, that's the negative. Let me be a little positive. Follow me. Also, obeying God's will does the same exact thing. It then frees you and frees other people. Let me give you an example. I've been in counseling a lot over the last 10 years. And some of you are going, oh, now that makes sense. That explains it all. And the reason I say that is, and the reason I chose to do that was because of my baggage. My parents' baggage that has impacted me and causes me to do things that I didn't even realize that I would do. So their sin is affecting me now. Okay, that's terrible, right? And I got to deal with it. I can't sit there though. Why? Because if I sit in that, because you can live in the blame game, it's their fault, I'm a terrible person. You go into this hole. But here's the problem. I've got a family and I've got kids that have been affected, them to me and now me to them because of my baggage, right? And it affects them. So at some point you gotta say, okay, I'm stopping now. Y'all with me on that? It affects other people. That's why this issue is such a really big deal. So, that is a lot of depressive stuff right there, right? Let's see if we can redeem this thing, and we'll try to do it. So what's the key? What's the key? I don't want to do that. So what's the key to that door? If I want to go through the right door, God's door, what is the key? So let me go ahead and label that. That might help us here, right? Let's call this freedom. So God says, I want you to be free. See, when we have a choice, you always have a choice to do what God wants you to do. Behind this door is freedom. Behind this door is life. Behind this door is purpose. Behind this door is meaning. Behind this door is joy. Behind this door is peace. Behind what you're looking for and what you think you're looking for over here at this door, God's saying, no, you got to trust me. It doesn't feel as fun at first, or as it doesn't meet your my immediate need, or so you think. You just got to trust me. But behind it, there's joy, there's peace, there's purpose. And so that's what's going on there. And so here's the big thing that I want to deal with before we get too much further. So if that's the case, there's freedom over here. I know what some of you are saying. Chris, that sounds great. I would love to do that because I went through that door. And I'm so deep in it now, and I'm so far into it. Maybe it's an addiction, or maybe it's bad relationships or hurt people in the past. There's such a chasm now. In your mind, you're saying, Chris, Man, that sounds really great. And I can testify that this is a terrible door because I've lived it. And that door right there is like way over there. I mean, it's way over there, and it's not possible. And what I want to tell you right here off the bat is that is a lie as well. That's this door, and that's that living creature that's in there that's holding you in and whispering lies to you. You can never make it now. It's too late. You're too far. You're too bad of a person. You know, you can't do it. But here's the truth. Here's what God says. No. This door is actually right here. That door, listen, is one decision away. Just one decision. Now, I love you, so can I be honest with you at the same time? I love you. But the way this story also plays out, keep in mind, the consequences for Cain are done. I mean, the consequences are there. I'm telling you that just because you start to make the right choice, don't walk into it making the right choice so that you negate or get rid of the consequences. Because in a lot of situations, that's not true. The consequences don't go away. Which goes back to the question, what's your heart? What's your motivation? Because when I go to open that door, it's because I love Jesus and I love God and I respect who he is and I want what he wants. And so I don't care about the consequences anymore. I now just want to follow him. And he's saying, come on, you can. Now, I'm not going to say that God doesn't step in some as he does with Cain. If the rest of the story plays out, there's some consequences in God. Because Cain does appear to be repentant at some level, God doesn't mitigate the consequences a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're still there. You with me? That's really important because the whole goal still goes back to what is our desire here. And that's what I want to kind of get into. All right. So here's it is. Here's the first one. This is the first question. This is really not complicated, but I'm going to try to walk through it. Who are we trying to please first? And that might be a comma there. Please, first. Underline it. This is the question. Who are you trying to please first? Because the whole issue here is where is your heart? And if it's, I'm trying to please me first. I want what's best for me. I want to bring glory to me. I want what's best for me. I want you to bless me. Well, then you're missing it. If I want to please God first and I see who he is, then that's where we begin. And it's very clear here, this is the key to finding God's will, is knowing what God wants for your life. If you want that, then know him. He's the one who's the key to this door. So here's our big idea. It's worth writing down. This is what I'm trying to say as a whole. You'll never understand the will of God. Third door, right? I'll never understand the will of God for my life until I'm willing to surrender myself to that middle door, the moral will of God. Now, I want to really jump into this. Let's finish it with this right here. Let's look at Romans chapter 12. We're going to exegete this. What time do I have? 12:51. Let's do this. We're going to move fast. You ready? Let's do it. We're going to walk this whole thing because this right here will transform your life. You ready? This is great stuff. Life-changing stuff. You ready? Therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, it starts right there. Therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of what God has done for you, in view of his mercies. See, here's the problem. Many of us know about God, but we haven't experienced God. Understanding what he has done for me, and then me being so broken by that, and me being so humbled by that, I'm like, God, you are amazing. I mean, what you have done for me is overwhelming. And I understand maybe some of you haven't had that experience, but it's in that experience when you're overwhelmed by his mercies that he has done for you is where it all begins. Him coming upon you in his greatness and what Jesus did, realizing who you were and what he did to pull you out of that and deliver you from that. That mercy on you then opens the door to everything else. You with me? That's just the first line. We got to keep going. In view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. I urge you to present your bodies as a sacrifice because of what he has done for you and because you know what he's done for you. You then come to God and say, God, here I am. Here's this. So in other words, when you're talking about a business deal, right? And you can make good money on it, but you got to cut some corners. You may have to lie a little bit. You may have to change some digits around. You may need to deceive somebody. Say, no. I don't do that. I don't do that because of what he's done for me. God, here's my body. Here's my money. It's not my money. It's your money, God. I don't need this extra stuff. My integrity is worth far more. So, God, I offer up this to you. And I'm gonna be honest. The choice that I have, hey, you're in a dating relationship, right? She's fine, right? And you wanna do something, you know what I'm talking about? So no. I know this is weird and everybody else and the whole world says this, but God, here's my body, I give it to you because of what you've done for me. I don't understand it, it doesn't make sense. Everything inside of me is saying to do the other thing. But God, here's my body, a living sacrifice to you. You can have it, it's yours. God, I'm just gonna trust you with it. It doesn't make sense. But that's what worship is. The problem with many of us is we think it's singing a song or saying a prayer or reading the Bible. And God's saying, that's great, but when are you gonna start living it? Because that is your true worship. True worship is the response of when you see God's mercy on you and how you then respond to that is true worship. The other is just you making noise, rattling stuff around, impressing people. God says, no, I want true worship. You making sacrifices and giving to me above and beyond, offering to me the best of yourself. You with me? Woo, I've only got through the first verse. Keep going. I'm running out of breath. Do not be conformed to this age. Oh, love this one. Because see, it says, hey, listen, the world is going to be pointing you to here. The whole world. Don't conform to it. They're telling you, oh, looks good over here, don't it? Isn't it pretty? Come on over here. You got to do this. It's amazing. It's the best. Listen, you're hearing music and it's screaming at you. You've got the internet and people that are screaming at you their truth and pointing you to what you need to do. But don't you notice how negative it is? Unloving. It's all pointing over here. And he is saying, don't be conformed to this. Don't let them pull you into this mess. Don't let them trick you into it. Yes, what he says oftentimes is different than them. And it's like God's holding back from you. He says, don't be conformed, but be transformed, be changed. Be radically changed, transformed by the what? Renewing of your mind. What the heck is that? That means daily I wake up and I remind myself of what I often forget. I remind myself of who he is and who I'm not. I remind myself of how awesome he is and how awesome I'm not. I remind myself of who I was before I met him and what he did and what he pulled me from. Because all the stuff that I was joking about as a kid, he delivered me from that. Pulling me out of my identity that I find in myself and in all these other things. He saved me. Daily, I remind myself by getting into his word and by praying to him and speaking this truth back to myself so I never forget the mercies of God, and I renew my mind daily on who he is so that, this is important, anytime you see a so that means what was just said is gonna lead to something. What was just said is what I need to do because it's going to lead to this, which is, y'all ready for this? Here's the grand finale, and everything plays out so that you may discern what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God is the third door. You see it? Man, if I get the sovereign will of God, I'm with you, God. Now I'm at this tough door. There's two doors. It's the moral will of God, and that's personal. It's very personal. And I say, God, I predetermined before I get to that door, God, because of your mercies, you're amazing. I can't even comprehend all that you've done for me. And so, God, even though I don't understand it and all of the world is pushing me here, because I'm constantly reminding myself and renewing myself, God, I'm going to trust you, and I open up the moral will of God. I'll enter into freedom. I enter into freedom where there is life. See, freedom, notice this is great. So open up the door, the moral will of God, into freedom. And I come to the third door, and guess what? I can do whatever I want. Whatever, God's perfect, pleasing will. I can do whatever I want. You're saying, Chris, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. Because I love him. I understand what he's done for me, and I want what he wants. It's flowing out of me now is God's goodness, and I want what he wants. So he says, who do you want to marry? Marry them. Where do you want to live? Go live there. What do you want to do for a living? Go do whatever it is that you want to do. Not to say that God doesn't sometimes intervene, because remember, the sovereign door trumps all of these doors. God says, no, you're going to live on 3536 Autumn Lake Drive because I have a purpose for you there. No, you're going to work this job. I got a purpose for you there. There's somebody that needs me. You go, okay, God. I'm going to, the freedom that I had, personal will, no longer is freedom. Okay, I'm going to go where you told me to go. But you know what? I don't care because I love him and I want what he wants. Does that make sense? Yeah. Whew. Anybody else tired? I feel like I just preached. We're going to stop. I could keep going, but I'm going to stop right there. I feel like a good stopping point. Listen, here's what I want us to do. We're gonna close kind of a unique way, and we've got time. See, doing good. We got time. So we're gonna. Keith's gonna sing to us. He's gonna sing over us, and we're gonna sit in it, and we're gonna pray. I'm gonna challenge some of you who haven't done this a whole lot. You're gonna talk to God. You're gonna ask him what your next step needs to be. See, some of us, I feel like you're at different places in this journey. For some of y'all, it starts here. You don't know if God's sovereign. You haven't experienced him yet, right? So you're having a hard time with the first part of, man, his mercies are overwhelming. You're not there yet. It's not overwhelmed you yet of who he is and who you are. So it's there. Some of you are at these two doors and you're struggling. And the messages are pulling you to certain things, and you know what that is. There's a certain proclivity that some of us have towards certain things, and you know what it is. Even as I've been talking, there's that one thing that keeps popping in your head, right? And then, of course, the personal will of God. There may be some of you that are struggling with a tough decision. It's not that it's not valid or not important. It is. We can still ask God. It doesn't mean that we don't ask God where there's freedom. Yes, God may have something specific for us. So I've placed, not me personally, but I've had placed in your chairs a card. You should be sitting on it. I want you to take that card. And as Keith just sings over us, now I do want you to hear the words, but I don't necessarily want you to sing the words. I just want you to receive it, right? Just receive it. And you pray, God, what is the biggest hindrance to me right now in my relationship with you to get to where you want me to be? What is that thing? I want you to write it on the card. I'm gonna tell you several things, so stay with me. Some of you are very nervous already because you don't want nobody to see what you're gonna write on there because it might be something that's kind of hard. I want everybody to shield your card. This goes back to the mere purpose of what we're talking about. It is not about me, but yet it's all about me, right? God working in me. So you showing it to people, no. Even whether it's for whatever purpose, it doesn't matter. I want you to, this is between you and God. Keep it personal. I want you to write on there what you think you would like for us to pray for you about. Your one thing that you want to do this week. It might be a specific thing you're struggling with, whatever. And then I want you to fold it. Keep it private. Don't put your name on it. Don't any of that information. And on the way out, we have boxes at the door. I want you to stick them in those boxes. Our staff and our prayer team are committed to praying over every one of these cards. That's how important it is. Because I want you to get this. If we get this right, if our church begins to get this part right, and we have people that love God and understand who he is, and they're making the right choices, and they're living in the freedom of the will of God, man, can you imagine what that would do to transform our city, transform our neighborhoods, to transform the people that are around us, transform our workplaces? Man, you want to see the crime rate go down? You want to see the unwed pregnancy rate go down? You want to see all of this stuff begin to make a difference? Is when God's people start getting this right. And we look different. Because anybody that is living behind that door, nobody in here can deny it. They look different. They're different people, and I want to be like that. Let me pray over you. Father, oh, wow, God, may we get this text. May this be our life text. That we live in such a way that we're blown away by your mercies. that we're blown away by who you are and what you've done. And God, that you would begin to transform us on the inside, renewing our mind on a daily basis. And God, we begin to want what you want. And we begin to live in such a way that we see people no longer as objects to get to something else, but your children, broken. God, that we begin to see you for who you are. God, I just pray that you'd move in this place. Maybe for the first time, some people are going to begin to speak to you and ask you questions very personal. And God, I just pray that you'd begin to speak to them. It may not be audibly, but God, that we would trust what we're hearing and trust you and begin to open the doors and grow that relationship. God, move in this moment. We pray in the name of Christ.